Okay, we talked about toolbars, tool shortcuts, hidden tools, all of that. Let's look at something that happens before we even get to any of that. When you see this um, start screen for Photoshop, there's a couple of things that we notice right away. We have a lot of stuff here, um, and it's fine. But the two most important things, for me anyway, when I'm working, is to see that I can do Control N to make a new blank document, create a new document, or I can open a pre-existing one, Control O. Control is the modifier key. We talked about that in an earlier tutorial. The three modifier keys are Shift, Control, and Alt. They change the behavior of the keystroke that you use in conjunction with that modifier key. So there's three: Shift, Control, Alt. You should say that over and over and over until you have it committed to memory. In this particular case, Control O for open, and then Control N for new. What I tell my students is to remember that a lot of this, even though it's new and sometimes overwhelming, can be boiled down to very basic concepts. The people that put this software together, Adobe software, and this is true in Illustrator, Dreamweaver, so many things, Flash, Photoshop, InDesign, the Adobe creative software, is something that what I want you to remember is that the shortcuts generally reflect the word that you say. So if you can say the word new, if you can say I got to make a new document, it's just the hard part is remembering the modifier key, Control N. But N is obviously for new. If you can tell yourself I need to open something I worked on yesterday, the operative word is open, and the shortcut modifier key is Control and then O for open. A lot of these things are designed on purpose so that they are user-friendly for us. The people that built this software, I haven't talked to them personally, but I would assume they do this so that we don't have to struggle with the simple things. We can learn the simple things quickly and get on with whatever work it is we want to do in the particular software we're using. So it's good to know all of that. I'm going to go ahead and do Control N for new. We've looked at this before. We'll look at it again. The first thing I do is I title it, and we'll just say Demo for demonstration. And if you hit the Tab key, you see that you can cycle through this, what is referred to as a dialog box. When we get to Custom, I'm going to hold that down and just take a look at what I've got. I've got default Photoshop size. US paper, international paper is a different size. I've got photos, I've got webs, film, I have all of this stuff. I just want to look at default Photoshop size. But there are so many things in here. Do not hesitate to experiment with this so you can see. It saves you a lot of time. The default Photoshop size is 7 by 5. And I'm going to change this to 300 because that's where it should be for print. So many things to talk about, but let's just do this. Okay. There's my document. The rulers are on. Control is the modifier key, and R is the shortcut. Turn them off and on. So that's a good thing to know. But what I want to talk about now is this particular setup that we're looking at. This interface we graphics people refer to it as. And what happens is we can change this depending on what it is we are doing with the software. What does that mean? Well, it means simply in the workspace, you can have the regular generic essential default settings. If you're working in 3D objects, you can have a 3D setup. Let's just take a look. You get to watch what happens here. It changes to different palettes, different workspaces do this for us. And if we go back to here and look at graphic web, because graphics for the web are type, paragraphs, properties, libraries, layers, all of this stuff, that's for the web. If you're curious, and you should be, if you're doing motion animation, which is very, very cool, you can do that in Photoshop. But look, if you're doing painting, you want colors and brushes and layers, and you get that, and you can see what it is you're doing by doing that. And if you double click on the tabs, it shortens them up, temporarily hides them. They don't go away. There's all kinds of things here. I just want to show you how to get around. If you're not a painter, but you're doing photography, who doesn't? Look, you have a histogram, you have color and black and white adjustments here, and you have layers. So my point about this is you have under workspace all of these different options for you to take advantage of depending on what kind of graphic work you're doing. 3D objects, graphics for the web, motion animation, painting, or photography, right? You can also make your own workspace or get rid of it or reset it. And these are a little more advanced, but once you get into this software, you'll see what that means. Generally, it's on the beginning or essential one. I do a lot of photography, and so I work in photography a lot. I also do a lot of web stuff. So those are the three I use: essential, graphic, web, and photography, right? And so that's very, very cool to be aware of, yeah. All right, and then it's just so deep. You guys know that. But I did want to talk about the work area and how you can change the workspace, change the look of it. The other thing too is this thing about the toolbars. Every tool, V for move, M for marquee, every tool has its little logo or its icon, not only here but up here in the corner, and that's because you can go to the settings for that tool and you can modify things, you can change things. And if for some reason the tools are not doing what they should be doing in any kind of tutorial book you've purchased or any tutorial you're seeing online, go to the tool, go to this little box, go to the icon that you see here, right, and reset the tool or reset all tools. I like to reset all the tools because then I know that no matter what I'm looking at, I'll click out. My tools are set to the default positions, and generally speaking in the tutorial books or tutorials online, you'll see that almost everybody I know of begins with default settings on tools. The other thing to remember too is, and this is a little deeper than would be expected in this tutorial, but just so you know, if you were to change things and have different palettes open and have different tool settings, and you're using the horizontal type tool with the crop tool with the polygonal lasso tool, when you close Photoshop, it takes a mental snapshot, if you will, of all those settings and remembers them, records them. And when you open Photoshop in an hour, and the next night, the next day, the next week, it remembers the prior tool settings from when you last used it. And so you may get to the point where you're starting all over, but the tools are doing wacky stuff, doing things you have no concept of why they're doing things. And that's because it remembers the tools the way they were set up when it was last closed, when you last quit out of Photoshop. So sometimes you have to go and reset all the tools at the beginning. There's another way to do that, but that's just so you know that that's a responsibility as graphic users we all have to bear, you know. All right, that's it.